My name is Rachelle Smith, entrepreneur, professional speaker, and author. Last time I talked about the importance of believing in yourself despite any adversity you may be facing in life. And the truth is, we all face adversity. I really enjoyed watching the Cavaliers take the title last night against the Toronto Raptors. And really, every time I watch LeBron, and I've actually highlighted him in one of my books, that power, that the importance of the power of believing in yourself is truly manifested in that young man's life. And there's actually a book, Shooting Stars, that actually chronicles his life that I highly recommend. But you want to talk about the power of believing in yourself. And he had a very adverse childhood growing up, but he channeled it the right way and has really, really become super, super successful. And I think there's lessons from the life of LeBron that we can all learn from. And I like what he said early on in the series when he basically said adversity is good for these young guys, meaning his teammates who were younger than him and didn't have the level of playoff experience. I really, really like that. And that's so true. Adversity is good for us. While we may be experiencing it, it may not seem like it's good for us folks, but it truly, truly, truly is. This time, I actually want to change directions and talk about the importance of knowing your vulnerabilities and blind spots. And folks, much like we all experience adversity in life, we all have vulnerabilities and blind spots because, hey, we're all card-carrying members of the human race. The matter is, and the question is, what are yours? Okay, for some people it may be an inability to say no. For some people it may be allowing people to use you. It may be allowing people to walk all over you. It may be, allowing people to disrespect you. It may be you're such a giver, you have a very hard time receiving. I mean, there are literally myriad different ways and myriad different vulnerabilities and blind spots that we all have. But it's very important to really think about yourself, particularly challenges or certain areas of your life where you experience conflict or you're truly unhappy. And I can almost guarantee you there's some vulnerabilities there that perhaps may be being exploited. And so think about, what are your vulnerabilities? What are your blind spots? And it's so important once you're aware of those, because what? Awareness is key. And I love what Dr. Phil always says, is that we can't change what we don't acknowledge. So we've got to know ourselves. We've got to know our strengths and our weaknesses, which of course include our vulnerabilities and our blind spots. And we all have them. And so it's basically learning how to manage those, okay? Change how you respond. If perhaps, say, your best friend is always calling you at the last minute and canceling plans on you, and you have an inability, or perhaps your vulnerability is you hate conflict. You hate speaking the truth. You hate being honest with people. You're so afraid of others' disapproval or others' anger or others being disappointed with you that you have a very hard time speaking up and being assertive. So that could be a vulnerability, or that is a vulnerability, and that is a blind spot. And if you're in that particular situation, and again, there's myriad different ways that these vulnerabilities and blind spots can play out. But in that particular case, it's, hey, learning how to be assertive. Learning how to be assertive while also being respectful, while also being, honestly sharing your truth and how you feel about the situation. That is the best way to manage these situations, because, folks, it's just human nature, and it's so sad. But the truth is, a lot of people will exploit weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and blind spots. So we've got to know what ours are, and we've got to develop strategies to manage those. And what are yours? Think about that. Spend some time thinking about what your vulnerability and your blind spots are. And I promise you, it will be a very eye-opening experience once you think about it. What are mine? I have a tendency, and if you know me for a long time, literally, 11 years ago when I first started my inspirational writing, I would send out my weekly narratives. They basically, many of them had the theme of me being a rescuer. And that is so, so true. And I really have to guard, because I'm aware of it now and I've developed strategies to manage it. I have to be aware of my tendency, just my natural human tendency, to be a rescuer. So if somebody's in trouble, somebody's having a hard time, someone needs my help, those have been scenarios in my life where I have literally, like, Rachelle is on the spot. Rachelle to the rescue. And actually, 2006, I actually had a workshop called Rachelle to the Rescue to help other people overcome that vulnerability and that need to rescue other people. And so I can literally, and I actually wrote about this whole issue in one of my books, Inspiration, A Common Life Cure, and I talked about how literally there's probably no problem on the face of the earth that I have not worked through with somebody. I mean, it's just like moths to a flame. And you really have to understand this dynamic of, in my case, okay, I have a tendency to be the rescuer. Yes, I manage it now. And yes, I'm really good about, creating, have boundaries to make sure that I don't succumb to those as I used to. But we're talking, I'd be at a networking event and someone would have me cornered talking about all of their problems. I'm on a flight somewhere. I'm sitting next to the person whose life is falling apart. I mean, literally, I'm in a room with 500 people at a conference. The most unhappy, bitter person is somehow going to find me. And so that used to be a huge struggle for me. But guess what? All right, I love people. I have a leadership gift. God gave it to me. I love people. I love helping people. I want to see people live their best lives. But I've had to develop boundaries around that in terms of my ability to help people and learning lessons like you can't help people that don't want to be helped. And people are ultimately going to do what they want to do. And many people just want to complain and don't want to make any positive changes in their lives. So those have been some of the lessons that I've learned. And so I ultimately had to perform the ultimate rescue and save myself. But you've got to know we all have them. Another vulnerability of mine is I'm very achievement oriented. I've mentioned that in several episodes prior to this one. And so if you are aware of that, and they're aware of our vulnerabilities, people can sense that, people know that, they can watch our actions and behaviors and learn how we operate. And so in my particular case, very achievement oriented. So all it would take for someone was to come at me with an opportunity to add another checkbox, another accolade, another achievement to my resume. And so that was enough to get me to do anything and volunteer for this and lead this and get involved in this. And the truth of the matter is, folks, time is finite. We don't have all the time in the world. And I've had to make some tough decisions with my time. And I'll be honest with you, my biggest mistakes as an entrepreneur were regarding and have been regarding the management of time. So I was doing all this stuff and all this volunteering, and it distracts you and you lose focus. But again, why is that? I've got this natural achiever personality. And so in the past, others have been able to kind of come at me and get me to do all kinds of stuff because I had that need to achieve. And they know, like, oh, well, I know Rachelle will do it because she wants this on her resume, or she likes to achieve things and do different things. And that was true, but not today. No longer. Like I said, once you're aware of that, and I love what the late Dr. Maya Angelou said, when we learn better, we do better. And that is so true. Because now, in terms of my being aware of this, and I've developed strategies to manage that, it has been absolutely phenomenal. I have just total control of my time. I don't allow people to waste my time. I'm not doing a whole bunch of stuff I don't want to be doing. I truly do what I want to do and what I feel will be the best use of my time. It will be a win-win situation for me and an organization or an individual, whatever the case may be. So know how to manage those. A couple of examples, and I was able to look and see kind of how I've grown in this area. One organization here, actually it's a national organization. Okay, Rachelle, we'd love for you to join the executive committee. This was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Rachelle, we'd love for you to join the executive committee. Now, the old Rachelle would have been like, oh, an executive committee. Oh, and it's a national organization. Oh, this would be great. Bottom line is, I don't have that kind of time. Committees, I have a great need. I'm very independent. And so if it's all humanly possible, in volunteering roles, I love roles with lots of autonomy. And that way I can kind of manage things based on what my schedule is and what's going on in my life. So essentially, I told that person, thank you. This is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you so much for thinking of me. But I'm going to have to decline this opportunity. But because it isn't an organization that I believe in, that I'm firmly committed to, and that I've done things with in the past, what I essentially did was came back and said, I won't do this. I won't take on this executive committee role, which is very time consuming and very demanding, but I will do this. I will take on this particular role, which enables me to operate autonomously, and this will be a much better fit, and I can just, again, have better control of my time and my interest level, because when I'm on committees, and committees are wonderful, but just my personality, it can be tough for me not to lose interest in things and people. And so I just know when you put me on a committee and then I get bored, and so it's just the whole situation. So anyway, I'm volunteering for the group. I do have a leadership role, but it's a role that will work for me. But see, you've got to know how to be assertive and not allow people to exploit your blind spots in order for that to happen. Second, local organization here in Detroit, got an email. This was about 3.5 weeks ago. Rachelle, it's time for you to answer your call to do this with this particular organization. You were recommended based on your friendliness and your personality, whatever, yada, yada, yada. Okay, and I saw that and I'm like, this is a joke, all right? This is nothing but pure manipulation, okay? I know what the call of my life, I know what the call on my life is. You don't, so don't send me these, and this is actually how I replied. Don't send me these manipulative messages. I know what the call of my life is. If I'm interested in pursuing an opportunity or volunteering with your group or organization, I'll do so by my own volition. But don't try to manipulate me into thinking that this is a call on my life and I've got to get involved with this particular organization and this particular activity, because it's not. So you've got to know how to manage those, and you've got to know how to be assertive and speak up. Lastly, now this is something that actually just happened to me a couple days ago, and this was, I was actually at an activity here in Novi, about 12:15 p.m., and for the last several days, it has been extremely hot here. It's like we skipped spring, we went from, there's been kind of no gradual warm-up. So we've been in the 80s here, high 80s actually. Muggy reminds me a lot of Louisiana. And there's one thing about my personality, actually just about my physiology really, is I do not do heat. So do not ask me to go hang out when it's hot and sunny outside, because the answer is no. I like the indoors, and I like to exercise and nice climate controlled environments and just activities in general. When I'm in Louisiana and it's hot, I literally will get in the car, go to my destination. When I'm done at the destination, get back in my car and go back to my parents' house. So there's no hanging out in the heat. That's just not me. That's not who I am, because I tend to suffer from heat syncope, or it's also called orthostatic dizziness. So when it gets really hot outside, I'm out there for a long time, I will faint. And it hadn't happened to me in a long time, but 2 days ago, I was actually in Novi at an activity in the sun, extremely hot, did not realize that I was going to be in this situation where now I'm in the beaming sun as opposed to a nice cool environment out of the sun. And so what happened? We're all standing up at this event, mingling, networking, talking. It's about to start about 10 or 15 minutes later. And so I'm standing up there, and folks, yes, it was hot. It was just brutal. Reminds me so much of Louisiana. And the last thing I remember was I'm on the floor, all these people around me saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh." So these people were freaking out. But basically what happened? I fainted. I passed out. It was hot. I had a fainting episode. But guess what? When you think about our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses, 10 years ago, I would have been like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened to me. This is my first time at this activity. This is my first time meeting these people. What are these people going to think? Like, this woman just passed out, the first time coming to this, whatever. But the bottom line is, no one volunteers to pass out. So I can even see how my own security and confidence compared to how I would have reacted. I was like, who cares? All right, this is a situation. I'm hot. I was sweating after I got up off the floor. So anyway, got hydrated, got some fans, and everything was okay. But we've got to know our vulnerabilities and weaknesses. And so don't let this vulnerability of what will people think? What will people say? What will they say? I look like a fool? Who cares? Okay? So you've got to live your life in order to be happy. You've got to know your vulnerabilities. You've got to do your best to manage those vulnerabilities, because as long as we're card-carrying members of the human race, we will not be perfect, as you've heard me say countless times. But what we can do is do our best to live our best lives now. And that includes knowing your vulnerabilities, creating strategies to manage those, and being assertive to make sure you are living the life of your dreams. So thanks so much for your time. Make it a wonderful day.